Hello, Cozy Detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Joy,
And I'm Larissa.
and we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy. Hello! We're finally...
We were having so many technical
Oh,
difficulties,
my
so I'm glad we're
Lanta.
finally getting to chat.
Yes, if our Cozy Detectives are very handy-dandy on computers, let you girl know because my computer is old. And it's ironic because that's part of my case file. It's technology. I realized that when I
So
restarted the computer for
true.
the fourth time. But yes, Larissa, outside of that, how are you? How was your week? We didn't even catch up. We were just trying to
I
solve
know.
problems. Goodness gracious.
I feel like we just need to take a cozy, good, deep breath.
I know. Okay, in the
It's
blanket fort.
working.
It's
It's
all good.
fine.
It's recording. Ugh.
My week was pretty good. It was pretty hectic, but last night my sister and I had our unlocking fall annual tradition.
Love.
I watched my movie, That's My Case File, which is kind of our, okay, now it's fall, and had some pumpkin and patchouli candle going
Ooh.
and managed to find the Pillsbury fall cookies.
Love. What a classic. What a classic cookie. Is that the movie that we will be talking about? That's your case file. Is that your typical unlocking fall movie, or is that the one for this year?
It is now. My sister actually saw it for the first time last year, and
Oh,
it was
me too.
around. Oh, really?
Yeah, that's not one that I had seen in the past.
Yeah. Um, So it was around this time last year that we watched it. And then we also made this fall cocktail. It's like pear and honey and lavender and brandy.
Ooh.
It just is so perfectly fall to me. And so we did that last year, and it was the first time that we had those cookies. And so we're like, okay, this just needs to be our unlocking fall tradition now. And at first we went to Kroger to get stuff for the cocktail and checked for the cookies, and they weren't there. And I'm like,
Tragedy.
once you get it in your mind, you have to have them. So my sister looked it up. She has the Target app, and she found that they did have them at our Target. We found the aisle that they were in. So we
Nice.
were all good.
Nice. I went to, if you're a US cozy detective, I went to Trader Joe's. If you're not, I am sorry. But they did not have fall just yet, but
Mm.
the apples where I live are starting to become ripe. So that is something that I'm planning on doing this upcoming week, is going and harvesting some apples and then making all the apple-y thingies. And I'm going to make one today, but it's from apples that I bought, not apples that I have plucked from the tree. So I'm excited to do that. I think today, honestly, from doing our case file research, is probably my unlocking fall day, to be honest. I have some DIY projects I want to do, which we'll hopefully, if it turns out well, be part of my case file for next week.
Ooh.
So I know. So there's a lot going on. And in trying to figure out what my 2% was going to be for this week and trying to tell you things now, my brain is doing so many little projects all at once. And I'm trying not to spoil future projects.
Aw.
So I'm like, okay, what can I say? Okay, I'm going to make this apple thing. Honestly, it looks really good. Well, by the time this comes out, I can say it, so I'll just spoil it for myself. But it's a baked apple. I've never made that
Ooh.
before. So it's supposed to be kind of apple pie, but in one dish. And I found the dishes at a thrift store. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story, but it's like the blue rimmed dish with kind of a
Mhm.
spike looking thing in the middle. So you pour the apple and you put it around that so that it cooks all the way around and inside. And then you add butter, cinnamon sugar, brown sugar, and that might be it. But there's some crumble as well. I need to double check
Ooh.
on the recipe, and then you bake that, and then it's supposed to basically taste like an apple pie, but a single
Yeah.
serving. And that sounds wonderful. So
Your
that's
house
the
is
rest of
gonna
my today.
smell I was gonna say your house will smell really good.
I am very excited for that for today. But
Oh, fun.
should we get into the fall vibes of things?
I think so. It's so funny. We're clearly both in sweaters, but
Yeah.
it's
So
quite
warm.
hot out still, and so we're like, oh, a little toasty in these, but We're just both such autumn girlies, and I know you definitely are more than I am, but I just want it to be fall so badly that, with our unlocking fall last night and now
Yeah,
talking about our theme and case files today, I'm just finally in the fall mindset. I used
same.
to be very much like August 1st, but then it's still always so hot and then it's back to work and I just kind of struggle to get in the right moment. And so now it's more, I don't start fall on a certain day. It's just when the feeling comes to me.
Yes, agreed. Last year, I don't know what it was, but I was so ready for fall August 1st. And then this year, I think just because so much has been going on in the summer, I feel like I haven't fully gotten to enjoy the summer. Even our summer bucket list, I looked back on and I was like, your girl hasn't even made lemonade. So
I
I need
didn't
to,
finish mine either.
right? So I'm like, okay, I need to take some of the pressure off because I was starting to feel really behind on fall. And at time of recording this, it is mid-August. Like,
Right.
we're okay. So I need to remember that. So I'm trying to, when it hits me, decorate for fall. So I've decorated somewhat in here. I kind of just kept up. Oh, it's so funny. They're squished again. I kind of just kept up the fall decor that I had put in when we were talking about our Gilmore Girls, like two-parter episode, and I do like it. And so I feel like it's starting to feel more and more like fall. So I think with the apple baking today, I'm going to decorate the TV area. That's like my main area of decorating. And I have my
Hmm.
DIY project for that area. So I feel like once I'm in that vibe, I feel like it will be an unlocking fall day for me today.
Yeah,
So
I
I
know. Well,
feel,
and you just had your fall collection launch, which is really
yes.
exciting.
Yay.
And I think I'm going to try to make it after we record today, but your one of your items is inspiring me to make a dessert slash breakfast item for my Eating
Ooh.
Gilmore project, which I think I'll be sharing before this episode comes out, but I'm not entirely sure, so we'll see.
A potential teaser. I know that was the thing, is it was really fun to create those, but I feel like I haven't like modeled in them like I did last year because the vibe felt more flat lay to me this year of just like putting them and
Hmm.
kind of having the leaves around them. So I'm excited for weather to get cool enough here for me to start wearing those out because we have a really cute
Yeah.
town nearby. There's a an event that I help with each year that's in that small town, and I'm hoping to wear one of the sweaters. And so I feel like I'm planning more in the future this year versus in the moment in
Hmm.
fall as of now, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's confusing when you're a fall girly, but also you don't want to rush it because I do want to enjoy
Right.
summer. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. So, our theme for this week is the Queen of Fall herself, really, Meg Ryan.
Yay.
We had to do a fall episode for her. I feel like even when her movies aren't technically fall, they just still have those fall vibes.
Yes, for sure. And we were talking about this a little bit before, but doing research on Meg Ryan, the actor, instead of Meg Ryan, the characters in the movies, was kind of tricky because it
Hmm.
was hard to find things on them. I think you found much more than I did. The kind of details that I found was in interviews. So I have, mine is loosely based around a bookstore. So if you know, you know already. But she talks about her favorite book as a child in that. So I feel like that's like a little bit behind the scenes from her, but she's a pretty private person.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't find a whole lot either. So I will share a few of the tidbits that I
Yeah, please.
found. So she was born in Connecticut, which
Love.
just felt
Obviously.
so good. Like that, because of Gilmore Girls, like Connecticut as a state is fall to me.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I just loved learning that. I was like, of course she's from Connecticut. And she was voted the cutest girl in high school and those senior
Aw,
superlatives. And then it wasn't entirely clear if she was homecoming queen or prom queen. She could have also honestly won
cute.
both, but she was kind of at her peak in the 80s and 90s, was kind of America's sweetheart,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was just kind of fun learning about her time in high school. It feels very much that's
Very
just
Americana.
her. Yeah, for her whole
Yeah.
life, she's always been this sweet kind of darling. Um, she attended NYU to earn a degree in journalism, which was a fun little tidbit that goes in with my case file when we get to it.
Yeah.
And then with her kind of acting side, her acting debut was in 1981 in the drama film called Rich and Famous. And then my case file was her first leading role. So when we get
Yes.
into that, you'll see.
Yes, the one detail I just remembered about her hair specifically, because I feel like her hair in all of her movies is so iconic. Like the long hair at the beginning of her career, and then when she chops it really short later on, it feels so purposeful. But then it was funny because I heard her in an interview talking about it, and she basically said that like she just was over taking care of it when it was long, so she just chopped it. And that was like the full reasoning of it, of just it was
Yeah.
easier to take care of when it was short. And that also feels very like small town in the best way of like it wasn't this fully thought out PR everything. She was just like, I'm over it. I'm just gonna chop it short and this is better. And I'm just gonna keep it this way for now. Because she
Yeah.
does have a little bit long hair again. Because she does have a new-ish movie within the last few years.
I think last
Um
year is when it came out.
last
Yeah.
year. Okay. And then the only thing I know really about that movie is it's her, and I can't remember who the co-star is. I don't remember
I
his
don't
name across from
either.
her. But I know that they were that was I think her first potential directing role, if I'm not mistaken, and she was very intentional on the clothing that they wore in that because they only have one outfit because it's set in one scene basically throughout the
Yeah, at
movie.
an
It's
airport.
hmm And so I think that it's interesting how parts and details of her as a person will go into her work of the detail oriented nature of things. And then other parts are kind of that, I guess for lack of a better term, like the ENFP, just kind of like carefree aspect of things, or ESFP or whatever it is. And then she's just like, okay, I'm just going to chop my hair because I'm
Yeah,
over it and it's hot and I just don't want to take care of it
that
anymore.
was
So
me.
right? I get, oh my word, I'm feeling that too. My hair's way too long. But so if I come
I
on here next week and it's chopped, you'll know why.
Good to know. I think it'll be cute. But speaking of her hair, I think it was the that shorter hair. Um, they start the in hair salons, kind of like with the Rachel. They
Yeah.
started calling that the Meg because she popularized that short kind of little pixie look. So that
It
was
looks
also a
great
fun
on
little
her
tidbit.
too. I like your short hair too. I did short hair once. I don't know why. Joy just also made some spur of the moment decisions. The day before my high school graduation, I literally went from like this long length to
Hmm.
here and a full bang. I
Oh
thought, you know
wow!
what? We're just going to do it. And you know why? I remember the reasoning why. Because I did not like the cap that you put on, like the
Oh,
very
it'll
like
smush the curls
it
like in
smushed,
Gilmore Girls.
yeah, it smushed the curls, and I felt like I looked bald, and so I wanted hair somehow showing through. Oh my word, past joy. It's so funny. I'm
Uh,
like, okay, clearly I was like 17. That was a 17-year-old decision, but I loved it. And it's iconic now looking back of just seeing myself
Truly.
because my classmates were introducing themselves to me. I'm like standing there in my was it blue gown thing, and they're like, hello, and I'm like turning around and I'm like, guys, it's me,
Oh
Jessica.
no.
Like that's a reference to a different movie, but
Yep.
yeah, that's how I felt.
You'll
Oh,
have to dig up a picture from graduation so we can share it when this
I
episode
know.
drops.
I know. Don't make fun of me if my hair doesn't look good because in my mind's eye, I can't change it now. So it better look
Oh,
good,
I bet
honestly.
you were really cute.
I did my best, but oh, that was a rough grow out period too. I'll tell you what, because it was all long and then it was just
Hmm.
like long, long, long until it like finally caught up. I was like, oh goodness gracious. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I did bangs last year, and now that it's gonna start cooling down, I feel like I'm gonna want them again, but the grow up process was
it's
so rough.
rough.
And
Yeah.
I just need to keep reminding that. And then I'm just not to be gross, but I'm just kind of a naturally like face sweater. Just
I
and
get
so
that.
they
It's
would
hot
always,
too.
yeah, and they would stick to my forehead, or if it would rain, and I just kind of have naturally like wavy hair, so they were really hard to manage. So I don't think I'll be doing that again.
I know. I need to remind myself that the chop is not for me. That's what I need to remember because I do want my hair cut, but I want it more like there maybe because
Right.
it's off the screen at this point, so get my life figured out.
Oh,
But getting to my case
yes.
file is the 1998 film You've Got Mail. I love
Yay.
it. It's iconic. And I have so many like fun kind of behind the scenes, but more so based off of movie. If you don't know anything about this movie, it is actually set as a Christmas movie is when it was released, but to me it feels the fall vibes for sure. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's partially, I'll get to that with my why is it cozy to me, but I think partially it's mainly like the decorations and the vibes of things. But it
Mm-hmm.
is written and directed by Nora Ephron, which we also did a case file about because she's amazing. But we saved this movie for
Yes.
fall because it feels so fall. So it also was written by her sister, so they co-wrote it. I think it's
Cute.
Delia Ephron is how you say that, and Mikolos Laszlo were the three that were credited on IMDb. It stars Tom Hanks as Joe Fox and Meg Ryan as Kathleen Kelly. This is their third movie together, starring opposite of each other, and then
Mm-hmm.
also the third movie that they did with Nora Ephron. So in their interview, it was really cute. They were asking them how it felt to do this movie, and they both basically said that it didn't really feel a lot like work. It just kind of felt like hanging out
Oh,
because by that time they're so close. They've done three of these
right.
movies together. And it's nice too because I've never seen their first movie together. It was probably their least known. But in the second movie, they only had about 2 or 3 minutes in Sleepless in Seattle. They only had about 2 or 3 minutes in total of screen time together. So in
Right.
this one, they have a lot more interactions, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Um, the movie itself is set at the cusp of the technology boom. So 1998, I think I might have said 89. Not dyslexic, but you'd guess I was. But
I
1998,
was sitting here.
you're
No,
like,
I was
wait a
just,
second.
I was like, because
I don't
mine
think that's
comes out
right.
in 89, and I was like, mine was her first leading role. That was that wrong? And I'm like sitting
No,
here
you're
like,
so right.
did I write that
No.
wrong? So,
Your
okay.
girl just said
Whew,
it
we're
wrong.
good.
It's just one of
It's
those
all
days.
good.
Oh, goodness gracious. But it
No.
was set before Amazon, before really, from what I can remember as looking back and watching TV shows and movies from that time period, it was really before the really big box type of stores. So,
Mhm.
ironically, Joe Fox owns a large store that's a bookstore that's putting Meg Ryan's store out of business because it's coming into these small neighborhoods in New York City and taking over the consumers basically of everything because it's
Yeah.
kind of Barnes and Noble vibes.
That's what I always kind of thought that it was supposed to
Mhm.
represent, because I think that
Mhm.
was also around the time. I think that when Barnes& and Noble really kind of took over, because I feel like there used to be a lot more different, like with Borders and Books A
Mhm.
Million, and then of course you obviously had the indie bookshops,
Yeah.
but Barnes& and Noble just kind of steamrolled in, and so I always assumed that was kind of, they didn't want to hate on
Say
Barnes& and
it.
Noble,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
always thought it was supposed to imply that that's what that store was.
Mhm. That's what I always thought too. It's just interesting that it's technically a large small business because he's Joe Fox and it's Fox Bookstore, so it
Right.
is his family business. So I just found that interesting. But unknown to themselves and each other at the time, they are also online chatting, which is funny because one of the things that Meg Ryan didn't have before the movie, but ended up having by the end of the movie was her first computer. So I just thought that was
Cute.
so cute. It's just like art imitating life or life imitating art. It is
Yeah.
set in New York City, and Nora Ephron really wanted to portray the city in the city that she knew because she basically grew up there. So it's a very romanticized version of the city throughout all of the seasons, including spring is where we end. We also have Christmas, we have fall. We do have, actually don't know if we specifically have summer. I feel like it's one of those things where it's hard to make summer cozy, you know? It's just the other
Right.
ones just fit so well. And then it also is meant to showcase that even in a large city, you have these small pockets of things, even in the opening scene where they're opening up all of the shops. It's all these small local shops that they're
Mhm.
opening, and how, in like, if you're in Greenwich Village, you know your 3, 4, or 5 blocks, and you have your butcher, you have your, the only thing that's,
Bodega.
yeah, your bodega. The only thing that was interesting is they both go to Starbucks. And I was like, that's interesting to me. Like, no hate on
Yeah.
Starbucks, but I was just like, I
I
don't know if
feel like It's definitely you have your like designated coffee shop in the city.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And I also wonder if at the time Starbucks wasn't what it is now. So maybe there's like 10
Maybe.
Starbucks at the time. So it is more of a small mom and pop style shop, which is wild to think about as well. But it is based on the Shop Around the Corner, which is a 1940s movie starring James Stewart and Margaret Sullivan, which I thought was a cute nod because they name the bookstore in the movie The Shop Around the Corner, but based
Mhm.
upon the movie The Shop Around the Corner.
Cute.
Yeah, in that movie, they're two employees at a gift shop who don't like each other but end up accidentally being anonymous pen pals. So it's a very, very similar vibe.
Yeah.
And then the scene where Kathleen is sitting in the restaurant waiting for NY152 to come meet her, and then Joe shows up, and also my name's my I'm blanking on who the best friend is in this. Oh, Dave Chappelle, duh. Dave Chappelle and him show up and they look through the window and they're trying to figure out what to do. And then he goes in and kind of doesn't tell her it's him. That is nearly the exact scene from the 1940s movie, except for
Oh,
the
wow.
1940s movie, because of the time and the era, only had about 19 cuts in like different angles, whereas the Nora Ephron version had over 100 different angles and cuts
Oh,
and everything.
wow.
So it's interesting to see how previously when you looked at theater it was just you're looking at it and your eyes are figuring out where to go, but then with technology, even in the movie with technology, it kind of changes the way that we view movies and everything like
Mhm.
that. And then believe it or not, the 1940s movie was based on a 1936 Hungarian play
Oh,
that,
wow.
yeah,
So
that
many
was,
layers.
I know there's so many. It was wild to see like how many layers deep it goes with like who had originally created the core of the movie that we end up loving.
Mhm.
The musical is called, oh, the musical is, uh, I can't remember what its name is right now, but
That's okay.
I know, right? I feel like I'm a little off today, but that's okay. I'm really
You're
excited about
good.
it, so I'm going for it.
I think
Um,
the tech stuff also probably just made you a little flustered, so
I
all
get it.
good.
You know what I mean? I feel like the guy in the movie that's like, "Where's my typewriter? Give me my typewriters." But that original Hungarian play inspired also a 1949 screen musical in the good old summertime, starting Julie Garland, which I thought was really
Aw.
cute. Yeah, so it's a lot of layers deep. Both the 1936 and 1940 adaptation movie originals were set in Budapest, which I thought was
Hmm.
interesting. Whereas obviously Nora set the movie in New York, but she based it also off of bits of Pride and Prejudice, even to the fact that Kathleen and Joe talk about the book in the movie, which I thought was really cute. The few behind the scenes is the movie's original first cut was a 3-hour long movie. And not gonna lie, I would
Wow.
watch it. Like, give me 3 hours, give me an extra hour of this movie, because I looked up the runtime and it's an hour and 59 minutes. So it's a whole hour that I would love to know more behind the scenes of.
Yeah.
Right? I did watch an interview with the two kids 20 years later, because that's wild, but like obviously the movie's been out for more than 20 years, and they were talking about how they had a few scenes that didn't make it to the movie, and I'm like, "Oh, that would be so fun to see just like extra behind or deleted scenes of it." You could almost make a full
Yeah,
movie out of it, to be honest. But
truly.
right? In an interview, they were asked what is their favorite childhood books, and Meg Ryan said Harriet the Spy.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
it.
I
Okay,
know.
it's so fun. And little teaser that is going to be an upcoming case file very soon.
Right? I thought it was so cute because I was like, "Aw." And her son, she was talking about, also likes spy type books for her to read to him at the time.
Mhm.
And that was 98. So I don't know exactly how old her son was at that time, but I thought that was so cute that like just like fun little spy books is like a
Yeah,
thing
I
in their
love it.
lives. Tom Hanks said Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel. So I think that's just about, I think it's like a really cute child book where this shovel is kind of similarly to the movie. He's getting replaced by newer technology, and he just like
Mm.
shows that he's like actually still a very good piece of technology to use.
Oh,
So I know.
cool.
I know. It's so
That
cute.
also just I was gonna say that feels like such a Tom Hanks type thing.
Oh yeah.
He just seems like this very, like, pure back then, obviously, like, dad figure, and now moved into more grandfatherly roles, but he's
Mhm.
always just embodied that spirit. I mean,
Yeah.
no one else I don't think could have played like a Mr. Rogers like he did. So
Oh, yeah.
it just runs
And
throughout
Walt
all
Disney.
of it. Hmm.
And Walt Disney too. He did a really good job with that, I felt like, as well, in, Saving Mr. Banks. It's, like, kinda, like, loosely based off it's Disney's version, but, yeah, he's just good. I just feel like he can just meld into so many different parts and aspects of things, and actually, speaking of that, when in the movie, Joe closes the door and the balloon gets stuck, and then he says, like, "Good thing it wasn't the fish." That was just Tom Hanks. Like, that wasn't a line, that
Aw.
wasn't part of the movie. He accidentally got the balloon stuck, and then thought it'd be funny to say that, and then Nora Ephron thought it was hilarious, and so she just kept it in the movie.
Aw.
So there's just aspects and moments of that really bring the charm to the movie, I feel like, is another reason why
Mhm.
it's really has stood the test of time when it comes to, like, a rom-com style movie. A few of the things that make it cozy to me is obviously the scenes and the setting and the decorations. I feel like really embodies each of the seasons. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but I love a theme, and I love when people buy into the theme. I love how she decorates her bookshop so lovingly and with care, and she reads to the kids, and she's dressed in, like, her cute little, like, crown tiara thing,
Yeah.
and just the human aspects of it as well. I think the interpersonal dialogue is really funny. The fact that they kind of riff on each other when he's trying to steal all the caviar. She's like, "Why would you do that?" And it feels very real and grounded. I also I also love that it's a love letter, I think, also to New York City, because I think if you've never been, or if it can feel very overwhelming, it's a good reminder that New York City is a bunch of basically small towns all put together, and how even in a large city, you can feel at home in your part of
Mhm.
the city. If you haven't watched it, I think you definitely should for the Coast Detectives. I'd be surprised if you had it, because it's just such a beloved film. But that
Mhm.
is my somewhat convoluted pitch for the movie. But I
No.
think it's just one of those movies that, again, in starting fall, it's always on my list. I think the score is also amazing. There's some great songs throughout it. There's some great lines. I feel like it has those voiceovers that even nowadays we'll use on, like, Instagram, TikTok, even, like, from the movie, or I feel like it also inspires the voiceovers that you'll do for your own videos type of a deal, where
Mhm.
it's just like the B-roll going and they're walking and then she's speaking over it. I think it's just very lovely romanticized version of New York City and that time period. So that is You've Got Mail.
Love it. I
Yeah.
would really agree with the love letter idea and just the aspect of community. And that definitely makes it feel like Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And I would honestly say both of our movies are Gilmore Girls adjacent. And I know that is something that our cozy detectives have asked are for TV shows and movies that feel like Gilmore Girls. And definitely both of ours would fit the bill for that.
Yes, for sure. I'm excited to hear all the behind the scenes of yours, because in doing the Nora Ephron type of research, every time I would see that, I would skip over it because I was like, I don't want to spoil it for myself.
Yes. So my case file is When Harry Met Sally, another Nora Ephron and Meg Ryan duo. I feel like there's obviously like pairs of directors and actors that just really love to work together, and
Hmm.
those two are a good pair. But this is the 1989 American romantic comedy drama film. It's like the blueprint of a rom com.
Oh, yeah.
And it was directed by Rob Reiner and written by Nora Ephron, and stars Billy Crystal as Harry Burns and Meg Ryan as Sally Albright. And this movie, like I said, it's a blueprint for a rom com, but it's also very much the blueprint for friends to lovers.
Mm,
So if
yeah.
you love Luke and Lorelai, if you love when friendship turns into something a little
Yeah.
bit more romantic, and you haven't watched this, it's definitely for you.
And
And
Grumpy Sunshine too.
yeah, for sure. I would definitely agree with that. Also, more Luke and Lorelai vibes as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But What's also interesting in how you were talking about your movie isn't necessarily quote unquote fall, but you and everyone puts it with fall. That's kind of the same with mine. That obviously there are fall scenes. There's the really infamous shot where they're walking and there's the leaves and she has the
Yes.
little hat on.
So cute.
But New Year's Eve is also a crucial part of my movie. So just kind of that stretch of the holidays. But I think for me, like I said, it's become our Unlocking Fall movie. Even if it's not quote unquote taking place during fall during those scenes, it just still radiates that cozy fall energy. So, a quick synopsis of the plot for anyone who may not be familiar. So, Harry literally meets Sally, and it is right after they graduate from U Chicago, and they meet because they're going to drive from Chicago to New York because they're both moving there and they have kind of a mutual friend. It's Harry's current girlfriend and then Sally's friend. And this is where it ties back to Meg's real life. The reason Sally's moving to New York is to become a journalist, which when I
Cute.
found that little tidbit about Meg Ryan, I was like, "Ugh, worlds colliding. I love it." But during the drive, they start to disagree on whether men and women can be friends. And that's kind of the crux of the movie because she's like, yes, of course they can. And he's like, no, the sex is going to get in the way. They can't just be friends. So they, the movie kind of dips in and out of their lives as they go their separate ways after the move. And then 5 years later, they run into each other at an airport. And so the movie just kind of dips into the course of their friendship because they start reconnecting when Sally is dating this guy named Joe, and then Harry gets married but then divorces. So he's also dealing with that. And so they really rekindle this friendship, but there's some other feelings lurking deep down. So again, it's the epitome of a friends to lovers story. But some behind the scenes. So the movie also has Carrie Fisher and Bruno
Oh,
Kirby. I
love.
know, love her.
Love.
And the four of them all go on dates, but Harry and Sally's dates end up falling for each other during the date and they get married. And in an interview, Meg shared that they would all sing show tunes on set in between takes just because they all
Cute.
had a lot of fun. But Billy Crystal would actually separate himself from the cast and kind of hide in a room alone so that he can get in the mindset of being a newly divorced guy and being really lonely. So that it's just a
Aw.
little sad that he kind of
Aw.
missed out on that fun time.
Yeah.
Um, and then another thing that's like special to this movie is that they will cut in between some scenes, they cut to older couples sharing how they met, how they fell in love. And so all of those couples are real stories that the director Rob Reiner collected, and then they had actors to retell the love stories for the movie.
Oh, that's really cute. I didn't know that. I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, Rob Reiner and Nora Ephron I feel like they had a really good writing team as well. Like
Mhm.
her and her sister also were a really good team. So I feel like she's good at collaborating with a lot of different people, which is really fun to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And something that I said last night, so if this happens, I want to get credit for it. And now it's on the record. But I was like, why hasn't Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal like sat down again now and done the same little talking head? But in 5 years, it'll be the 40th anniversary, which feels like the perfect time to do that. So,
Yeah.
producers, people who do interviews, I'm giving you this idea, but I want credit.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
Give
so
it,
cute.
yeah, just kind of like them catching up, I think would be really sweet. So I really hope that happens.
I also feel like in Star Wars, they would like change different things of like
Hmm.
Anakin now is like the actor and things like that. So I feel like, especially knowing the end of the movie, I feel like you could have like a second little clip at the end that would be so cute.
Right, like
What
the
a great
catch up
idea.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I hope it happens. But the you and this is kind of lovely that you mentioned Nora and Rob working together because so Harry was kind of based off of Rob Reiner and one of the producers, Andrew Scheinman, and then Sally was inspired by Nora Ephron and some of her friends. So yes, they worked really well together, but they also just had this chemistry that inspired these characters, which I just really loved learning about. And then Nora originally titled the film How They Met, but Rob didn't really like that. So he started a contest for the crew during production for naming the movie title, and whoever could
Cool.
come up with the name would win a case of champagne. But I couldn't find who actually came up with the name for the movie.
Aw.
So I don't know if anyone ended up winning the champagne or not, but I thought that was really fun.
That's cool. Yeah, my movie was called You Have Mail until they realized You've Got Mail was not copyrighted at the time. And so they're like, perfect, you've
Oh,
got mail. Yeah, You
that's
Have
so
Mail doesn't sound
interesting.
as
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
it's not the line. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah.
And then there was actually a different ending that was in the script. So the original ending, it was that they stayed as friends, like they didn't end up getting together.
I bet that did not
Um,
play.
well, and we have to credit Rob's second wife. So he actually met his second wife on during the filming process because again, Harry was really inspired by him. He had gone through a divorce recently. And so when he met his wife and was telling her about this film, she was like, yeah, no, you have to change it. You need a happier ending. So I do
Yeah,
love that she saved us.
I agree.
And then I have a few behind the scenes of that one scene. Uh,
Yes. It's so funny
um,
because to me, like, I just saw it last year, so it's more fresh in my
mhm,
mind than, like, a nostalgic style movie. So,
mhm.
yes, I feel like we might have seen the same interview. Is it the 2 of them sitting on a couch?
No, I
Oh,
mean, the information that I got is probably from that interview. But yeah, I just kind of scoured the internet for different articles and
yeah.
stuff. So if anyone has not seen this movie, there is an infamous scene where the two of them are at a diner and Sally is talking about faking it in bed. And Harry was like, oh, you can tell. And she's like, you can't. So then she proceeds to fake it in the middle of the
Yeah.
diner. And everyone is just like staring at this because it goes on for quite a bit. Um, which also in this article, it talked about how on when it was shown on airplanes, they actually took that scene out, which is interesting because there's so many movies now that are way more graphic that fully
Yeah.
play on the airplane, which are always it's always so awkward. Um, but the scene or the line, the woman who says, I'll have what she's having is Rob Reiner's mom in real
That's
life, which is so
hilarious.
funny to me. Yeah.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
and it was Billy Crystal's idea to add that line in.
So
And
good. It's so
then
funny.
did you see the part about the sign that's up in the deli now?
Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, right, I bet it's like, "Please don't reenact that scene." Is that what
No,
it is? Oh,
it's
okay.
actually it's really funny. So Katz's Deli is a real life deli, and so they have a sign that says where Harry met Sally, and then under it says, "Hope you have what she had."
Nice. That's cute. That's better than, like, "Please don't
Yeah,
keep reenacting this scene here."
right. So that's and they filmed that quite a few times. So Meg Ryan really had to
Just committed to the
go
bit.
through it a lot
Yeah.
of takes.
That's so funny.
And then speaking of eating, so part of Sally's character is that she is very particular in how she orders food. And that was based on Nora Ephron, which was kind of funny to me because when we talked about my case file in that episode, it was all about food. And she was like, oh, I want the actors to experience eating this. And then there was even a time where Nora was on a plane and went through her normal, like, particular ordering. And the flight attendant was like, have you seen When Harry Met Sally?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. She's like, actually, that's based on me. That's so funny.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny. And then my last little tidbit before I get into why I find it cozy. So the role of Harry was actually originally offered to Tom Hanks.
Oh, I did
And they
not
would
know
have been
that
together
one.
all again. I know,
Oh,
but
it's
he
so
turned it
interesting.
down.
I actually think because of the characters we've seen him in previously, like even the character in my movie, I feel like Billy Crystal just fit that role so well. Like I think he could
Hmm.
play the like somewhat grumpy becomes less grumpy version like Luke vibes of things. Not that Tom
Hmm.
Hanks couldn't, but I think it's nice to see her play opposite a different actor. And I
No,
feel
for
like Billy
sure.
does that so well in that. And I think that's one of like the charming things about that movie as well is that it feels like two real people
Hmm.
like walking through like I love the Radio Shack scene also because I think that's also one of those things that dates it in a very specific time but in like
Hmm.
the best way of just them having fun walking around in a Radio Shack or like something that's very Radio Shack vibes.
Yeah.
And
And
I feel
they
like that's
sing the Oklahoma song. Yeah.
yeah, it's just cute and it feels like two real people somewhat embarrassing each other singing songs back and forth. And again, not that Tom couldn't do that, but I think was the right person for that
Yeah,
role.
no, I totally agree. I think they just have this really good natural chemistry that feels very friends turn lovers because I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes when characters are playing really good friends that turn romantic, it feels kind of awkward, but they have that nice, subtle transition where they'll look at each other slightly different or they'll have this little like secret smile to themselves, which I think just perfectly
Yeah, you're right.
encapsulates. I was trying to think of the word, that vibe. And also another scene that I think they did that happens really well, kind of to the karaoke scene, when they're at the Met and
I was
they're
just
doing the
thinking
little
that.
silly voices.
So
Um,
good.
like they're just really silly, goofy friends, which kind of feels very much like Lorelai and her bits.
Mhm.
But then it turns, you know, the tone shifts because he's like, "Oh, do you want to go to a movie?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I have a date." And then you just see his face fall. And I just think they play those subtleties so well.
Yes, yes, that is one of the things I didn't really touch on in my movie, but is a little different, and, like, in my movie, I don't love that they're online messaging you back and forth while they're both in relationships, and I think there's an aspect of that where you kinda have to see it as fake versus real because there's things that
Hmm.
like if you're looking at it through like a real life lens, I would not like that. Like I do feel
Right.
bad for I can't remember what the actor's name is, but her boyfriend who's just like loves typewriters and like he's just loving his typewriter and like she's like messaging another guy and it like hurts my heart. But I do
Yeah.
think that that's why I like the friends to lovers aspects of things because you see the slow build and I think I potentially hot take, I might like the vibes of that better in your movie than in my movie, but I obviously still love both of them. It just is a different feeling.
Yeah, I would say yours is probably more like enemies to lovers, or at least rivals to
Yeah.
lovers, because
Yeah,
there's that
Rivals to Lovers is good.
animosity in real life, but then in the like
Internet
AIM
webs.
aspect, yeah,
Yeah.
or the emails.
Yeah.
And it's funny too. We didn't really talk about this in your case file for Sleepless in Seattle, but it's kind of the same thing too, because she was with a guy in that, but like pining over this mystery man from the radio show.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's very interesting to think of aspects of that because again, like the version of that would be like texting somebody or swiping or something like that. And like obviously
Hmm.
like that's not okay. So I feel like in thinking about it in that aspect, I don't love certain parts of it, but I think that's why the friends to lovers slow build that we get in When Harry Met Sally
Hmm.
feels I guess natural versus kind of clunky. Like they obviously do break up with their significant others in You've Got Mail before they were to get together, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what the cozy detectives think because I think there's something about taking a movie as fiction for what it is, and I think there's also something about like, well, I wouldn't like that if I was like
In
dating
real
you
life.
and that was
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
tricky.
Definitely the romanticized version for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But I also do think yours is a very big love letter to New York City too. Like I
yeah.
love when they walk through the Met. Like that's
Yeah.
so
All this
fun.
scenery, which I guess I'll get into is why I find it cozy, is
Yeah.
the scenery, that fall shot, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google When Harry Met Sally Fall and you'll see it and want to be transported right into that image for sure. Um, and they wear these sweaters and just like the fall
Oh, his
outfits are
sweater,
so good.
that white
I
sweater. It's like the Rory
it's
sweater.
Yeah, I was gonna say he wears like almost the same. It's obviously not as baggy as Rory's pilot sweater, but they're very similar, which I
Love
love.
it.
And then she has the red one on at the same in the same scene. And then just the friends to lovers to me is always going to be cozy because some of my favorite books are friends to lovers, and I think just really quickly diving into like Luke and Lorelai, I very much like them more in the earlier seasons when they have this friends to lovers thing going on, but then once they actually get together and they don't always work well. So this to me is just like, if you want a good friends to lover story, like this is it. This is the blueprint.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the perfect word is also blueprint because truthfully thinking of aspects of it, like we're comparing it to Luke and Lorelai, but really it should be vice versa. like like
Mm-hmm.
Luke and Lorelai have aspects of like Harry and
Harry and
Sally
Sally.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's good. I'm glad that that is your transition movie. I need to watch it again. I don't actually have that one on DVD, but I have when you've got mail. You've got mail. Just combine them.
Yeah, we I don't have it on DVD either, and I think last year when we were watching it we rented it, but it was on sale to buy for like less than $5. So I was like,
Nice.
okay, I'm going to get the digital copy, but
Nice. Me
that was
too.
my case file, but I'd love to hear about your 2% from this week.
Yes, mine has to do with decorating, and I feel like it's going to feel very 2% because it feels small, but it's one of those things where in romanticizing the everyday, I got a really cute kind of 1950s vibe butter dish.
Ooh,
I know.
fun.
I never had one. I got it off of Amazon. We'll share a photo of it and then I'll show you because I actually don't think you've seen it either. But it's kind of a like I know it's like the mint green color, but it's like a 1950s feeling like green glass almost type of dish. It has a little
Ooh.
handle on the top, which I like. And I like the idea of creating a kitchen. Like we've talked about like kitchen vibes with like your counter or what are they called? The door thingies called?
Oh,
I
the
guess.
wallpaper cabinets.
Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
wallpaper cabinets. And I feel like that I was thinking about how to make my kitchen feel more vibesy of things. And I feel like I really love the just taking off the butter and just kind of having it out there and just it makes my mornings a little bit cozier. So that was my 2% cozier this week was
Love
adding a little bit
it.
of decor, a little bit of extra decor to my kitchen, which is a somewhat small kitchen. So keeping things on the countertops, I have to be really selective with what I keep on the countertops.
Mm-hmm.
But I use butter all the time. So it makes me feel vibesy of the 50s when I
Love it. Having a
uncloche
toast.
my yeah when I'm having a toast. So what's your
Cute.
2% cozy?
So mine is also pretty small, which I think is good because 2% are
Yeah.
not supposed to be these like really big things. But I had a lot of driving into the city that I live kind of far away, dealing with traffic a lot this week. And so
Mm,
the last day of that, my sister and I met up kind of halfway for dinner. And then afterwards, we went out to this new to us ice cream place, which was
cute.
really nice. Because I don't know, ice cream is one of my favorite foods, but usually we'll just go to like Sonic that's around the corner. So it's always nice to try those fun little
Treat.
ice cream places. And I really enjoyed the flavor that I had. This is definitely the Texan in me, but I got a Dr. Pepper flavor,
I love Dr.
which
Pepper. It's my
I
favorite
love
soda. That and Coke.
love it. I love the taste of it, but I don't I don't drink carbonation. And so for me, anytime I can have like the flavor of Dr. Pepper, I get really
Yeah.
excited about it. And again, the Texan in me, Whataburger in the summer does a Dr. Pepper shake and it's fine. Like it's not bad, but this one it didn't taste artificial like the
Mm.
Whataburger one. So I was very, very happy to get to enjoy that.
Ooh, yeah, I was just gonna ask how was the flavor, but it was like pretty close to what Dr. Pepper
Mm-hmm.
really is. Did they
It
say anything about how
honestly,
they make it or
mm-mm,
mm,
no.
curious.
Although maybe if I went online, because the workers, they were nice, but it was very much, oh, you're a teenager and this is your job. And
Yeah.
they just stood
Classic
there on
teenager
their
job.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the place, it was funny because it's based in Texas, but it was called Milwaukee something. I don't want to like locate myself too much, but it had
I
Milwaukee
think
in the
there's a
name, which
few
I
of
thought
those.
was kind of funny.
I've heard of
Oh,
that. There's
okay.
actually there might be one near me. Let me see.
Oh, okay. I just know that there was a couple in the Texas area that I'm in.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's like let me look it up. I don't want to say it out loud. La la la. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen this before. Maybe I was like when I was in Texas somewhere, but it's
Yeah.
cute. I like it.
Yeah, pretty small and simple, but it was really
Yeah.
good. And it was a nice little cozy treat to wrap up kind of a hard week. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like that's part of the 2% cozy as well is like it's that little treat at the end of like
hmm
a hard day or like even like not a hard day, but just things that either make your day a little bit cozier, obviously, or help make it cozy at the end of like a long day, a long
yeah,
week, just something to look forward to. Cause I feel like that's something as a kid that you do instinctively of like in 5 weeks we're gonna go to blah blah blah, but I feel like as an adult you
right.
just get so into the day-to-day of it that it can feel a little bit less cozy just out of habit of just
hmm
life. But yes, I like that. I like that our 2% cozy years really felt like 2% this week. I feel like it's vibes.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
definitely. Yeah, they don't always have to be going out and doing this thing. It really can be something small and simple. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can join us on Instagram at Blanket Fort Files and be sure to subscribe. I'm
Girl, it's
going to
fine.
try that over.
Sorry about
Subscribe. No, words are so hard.
You
Okay.
also said Whataburger, which is so Texas versus Whataburger, and I was like, I'm not gonna call it out. But I was like, I'll tell her after.
Yeah. So
I
there's
love it.
certain words where my accent just
I
really
love
pops
it.
up. But you can find us on Instagram at Blanket Fort Files and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd appreciate your feedback. So
You're okay. You're doing great. My whole face, I'm also sweating.
I know I'm so warm. Okay. 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 We really need to do like a blooper reel. That'd be so fun. Okay. You can find us on Instagram. No, I'm not going to be able to do it without laughing. Oh no. Okay. Maybe we just leave it in with us just like cackling
the whole time.
Okay. I've been trying to do this outro now for a few takes and mess it up or we laugh. So
You're
you
doing
know what? We're
great.
just gonna go with it,
Just
and
keep doing
if we
it.
laugh through it, it's
Yeah,
part of the
it's
vibe
fine.
here.
Cool
So
off over here.
all right, here, maybe fifth time is a charm. You can find us. Nope.
No.
Now it's just like we got the giggles. Okay. So you're going to find us on Instagram at
Yep.
Blanket Fort Files Pod. And you're going to subscribe wherever you listen to our podcast because we'd appreciate it so, so much.
Yes.
Please leave a review. It does help us out. And then you can join us in the Blanket Fort next week where we're going to start discussing how to have a cozy fall.
I'm so excited for the tips. We're doing the same thing where each of us have a tip under the tips. So you're getting bonus tips coming
Yes.
up.
All the cozy fall vibes.
All the